He promised to pay back one day. Black boy pleads with millionaire for milk for his sick sister. The sun hung low over the crumbling streets of West Philadelphia, casting eerie shadows that danced along the cracked pavement. A young boy, no older than 10, stood with desperation shimmering in his eyes. His worn sneakers barely held together. In his frail hands, he clutched 2 crumpled dollars, a paltry amount but all he had. With raw determination etched on his small face, he approached a sleek, black SUV parked at the curb like a predator ready to pounce. Inside, a millionaire leaned against the leather seat, unaware of the heart-wrenching scene unfolding outside. "Please sir. I just need some milk for my sister." The boy's voice trembled with urgency, his heart pounding against his ribcage like a trapped bird. He was pleading for a basic necessity, the lifeblood needed to keep her alive. As he spoke, a few passers-by turned, their expressions swirling with a mix of disbelief and sympathy. Could this be real? A sick girl? The onlookers leaned in, curiosity pricking at their interest, creating an electric tension in the air, but the millionaire dressed in tailored suits and a diamond-studded watch just stared blankly, as if the gravity of the boy's plea floated right past him. The little boy's voice cracked, rising to a desperate pitch. "I promised I'd pay you back one day. Just help us." Hope flickered in his eyes, igniting a tiny flame against the chill of despair clenching his chest. The crowd grew, murmurs rippling through the group. "What a shame," someone whispered. "Why doesn't he just help him?" Another remarked, shaking their head. Tension thickened like dark storm clouds ready to burst, trapping everyone in a moment suspended in time where compassion battled with apathy. As the boy took a step closer, his trembling hands clenched tighter around those $2, his lips quivering with silent prayers that the millionaire would listen. But the SUV's windows were tinted dark, hiding the man's reaction. There was something unsettling in the air, a feeling that this moment was more than just a plea for milk. What kinds of secrets lay behind that glimmering exterior? What twisted reality wrapped around that child's desperate words? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up." Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just as the boy's breath hitched, a flicker of recognition passed over the millionaire's face. Was there more to this encounter than met the eye? The crowd held its breath, every single soul hanging onto the raw tension building in the air. Suddenly, the SUV door swung open with a sharp creak, and everything changed in an instant. What would happen next? Would he help? Or would this heart-wrenching plea fall to silence? The millionaire stepped out, his polished shoes hitting the pavement with a muted thud. Everyone hesitated, uncertainty quaking in their chests. Had he finally decided to lend the boy a hand? The air shifted, thickening with bewilderment and hope. That he knelt down, meeting the boy's tear-streaked face with an expression that was impossible to read. Was it pity or something darker? The crowd craned their necks, eyes widening, breaths bated. "What's your name, kid?" The man's voice was deep but carried an unusual gentleness. "Jamal," the boy stammered, still gripping the dollars like they were made of gold. The name slipped from his lips so cautiously, like it had the power to break charm on this strange moment. "Jamal," the millionaire repeated slowly, weighing the syllables on his tongue. "And how sick is your sister?" "She has a fever so bad she can't eat or drink." His words stumbled out in a rush, urgency creeping back into his voice. "She needs milk, sir. Just a little milk to help her get better. Please." A flicker of something, maybe regret, maybe realization, crossed the millionaire's face, but it was fleeting. He glanced back at the now silent SUV, and for a moment, the tension in the air snapped, as if a rubber band stretched too far had finally given way. "You think I'm going to buy you milk?" he asked, his tone suddenly sharper. The crowd collectively gasped, confusion washing over as they exchanged glances. Was this man cruel or just playing a game? Please, sir. I can pay you back. Jamal's small voice rose above the heavy silence, thick with desperation. The millionaire straightened, his expression shifting into something sharper, almost disdainful. You think I'm interested in your few dollars? He smirked, mocking. You're just another kid trying to play the system. Dismissal dripped from his words, leaving an icy chill that sent shivers through the onlookers. Jamal's face fell. The flickering hope extinguished, replaced by the bruising blow of rejection. He stepped back, clutching his money as if it held the weight of his broken dreams, and just like that, the crowd buzzed with outrage. What a jerk! Someone shouted, anger igniting voices from the assembled. More people began to gather, curious eyes now leaning toward confrontation. Who are you to turn away a child in need? A woman shouted, her voice quaking with indignation. The swelling crowd echoed her sentiment, murmuring discontent like a raging tide. Jamal stood small amidst the furious spectators, tears brimming in his eyes, shame draping over him. The millionaire, still surrounded by the shimmering world of wealth and luxury, didn't he flinch. He turned to his SUV, visibly irritated. But a deeper madness lurked behind his cool exterior, a hidden darkness that seemed to seep into the very cracks on the pavement. You don't know me. Don't judge my choices, he snapped. But his voice wavered slightly as an unseen shadow passed just beyond his serene facade. As tension heightened, tension simmered on the surface. Suddenly, Jamal dared to speak again. But I'm going to win. I'll show you I'm worth it. Just then, a man stepped forward, a newcomer to the situation, his presence commanding attention. Let us show this billionaire what the real world looks like. He shouted, rallying the spectators. What was about to unfold? Would this altercation twist the narrative in an unforeseen direction? As Jamal stood his ground, the eerie feeling hung in the air, something dark was about to be revealed. The man who had stepped forward stood tall, his fists clenched at his sides. His eyes burned with a fierce light that ignited the crowd further. You think you can just walk away from this, huh? He barked at the millionaire, his voice unwavering. You think your money makes you untouchable? The millionaire straightened, irritation flashing across his face. What do you know about my life? He snapped, his bravado crackling in the tense air. You come out here, play the hero, but you know nothing. The crowd tensed as the newcomer Mark, as someone would later shout, pressed on, undeterred. I know enough. I know you've got everything, and yet you can't even find it in yourself to help a sick kid. His voice rose, echoing through their collective intensity. You're just a coward hiding behind your wealth. A ripple of supportive murmurs washed through the assembled, bolstering Mark's confidence. Jamal stood amidst the chaos, small and trembling, but his eyes burned with a yearning that was impossible to hide. The stares of the crowd shifted from the millionaire to Jamal, witnessing the injustice in all its raw sting. What does it matter to you? The millionaire scoffed, his disdain hardening. This is none of your business. You would rather use a child for your own theatrics. Mark's face blanched with indignation. And you'd rather stand there and let him suffer. The words hung heavy in the air, punctuated by the tightness in everyone's throats. The millionaire hesitated, a flicker of doubt ghosting across his features. For a breath, something shifted, a vulnerability that was quickly crushed beneath layers of arrogance. He turned, fingers gripping the edge of his sleek vehicle, as though it were the only thing anchoring him to this reality. I have my own problems, he mumbled, almost to himself. Around them, the atmosphere pulsed with expectation. A heavy silence summoned, tensing even the most indifferent faces. Jamal felt every heartbeat echoing in his chest, each thud like a plea for recognition, for help, for hope. He finally forced himself to meet the billionaire's gaze. Please, he breathed, just help my sister. The millionaire's face twisted as if he had swallowed something sour. He flicked his eyes down the street, a brief glimmer of fear crossing the limits of his meticulously crafted facade. He could feel the eyes of 1,000 secrets bearing down on him, his back against the wall of judgment. Then, the crowd surged forward, emboldened by righteous indignation. Let him go. Let him see what happens when he turns away a child in need. The clamor shifted from mere discontent to an uprising, voices rising and falling like violent tides crashing against a shore. The millionaire turned toward his SUV, desperation creeping into his posture. With each simmering second, the heat of the confrontation bore down on him. He had to make a choice. Would he walk away, drowning in apathy? Or would he dare to lower the facade, to reveal himself beneath the polished surface? Jamal's heart raced, swallowed by disbelief. Was this man even capable of compassion? In this moment of uncertainty, a surprising voice broke through. If he want help, maybe we can. It was a woman, her determination sparking a murmuration of support. Before anything could unfold, a blaring siren pierced through the heavy atmosphere. The crowd's energy shifted abruptly, casting frantic glances toward the approaching police car. Would they side with Jamal, recognize the pure desperation within? Or would they uphold the status quo, shrouding the boy's plea in silence? Jamal's stomach twisted, dread gripping him tighter than before. The millionaire's eyes darted, glancing back and forth between the boy and the approaching threat. As the police car screeched to a halt, the heavy door swung open, and a uniformed officer emerged, gaze locked on the unfolding scene. What would happen next? The seams of fate tightened. The crowd was ready for the storm, but not everyone was prepared for the dark secrets that would be unveiled. A question hung in the air, heavy and ominous: what would happen when the truth was stripped bare? The officer stepped out, a solid figure in dark blue, eyes scanning the crowd as if measuring the tension swirling in the air. What is going on here? He barked, voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The crowd shifted, voices muted as they turned to gauge the authority's reaction to the unfolding drama. Mark clenched his fists, his jaw tight with frustration. This man, he started, pointing an accusatory finger at the millionaire, refuses to help a sick child. The millionaire's carefully constructed expression crumbled slightly. It's not what you think. He protested, yet the confidence in his tone faltered, revealing a sliver of the fear gnawing at him. I can't. Jamal took a step forward, desperation flooding his voice. Please, officer. My sister is sick. She needs medicine and I can't afford it. His pleading eyes locked onto the officer, the boy's innocence radiating a sincerity that shook even those who had been skeptical. Step back. The officer commanded, his tone growing sharper. He turned to the crowd. What is this really all about? Mark raised his hands in frustration. We just want you to help us make him understand. There is no reason for him to refuse. The anger in his words resonated, a challenge echoing through the gathering. The crowd rallied behind him, a tide of voices lifting Jamal's plea until it became a chorus of discontent. The officer's gaze returned to the millionaire, a silent judgment hanging in the air. You have a child in need, he stated, his voice steady, and if you can help, you should. It's your responsibility. The millionaire's facade began to crack, an underlying fear of exposure surfacing. I'm being harassed here. He shouted, the bravado clattering like glass. This isn't how society works. Yet the crowd knew better, fueled by the fire of injustice. They were no longer just observers, they were witnesses. I'll make it work, Jamal said, his voice low but fierce. I'll do anything, just please help my sister. He felt the weight of the moment, every breath laden with hope and despair. He knew the risks he was taking, yet they paled in comparison to the urgency of his plea. The officer frowned, moving closer to Jamal, his eyes softening. Kid, I can't promise anything. But if you need help, we can figure this out. We have resources. There was a flicker of compassion, a silver lining threading through the chaos, but before Jamal could respond, the millionaire hissed under his breath, I won't have the police interfere with my business. He straightened, flourishing the air with his hands in a final desperate attempt to sway the moment. You're all making a big mistake. With that, something shifted in the crowd. The murmurs transformed into a hum of anger and disgust. "Help a kid, or face us," a voice bellowed, rippling through the assembly, intertwining their frustrations into a singular force demanding accountability. Jamal's heart raced. It was a battle of power, money and privilege against desperation and unity. The atmosphere thickened, a storm brewing just under the surface, ready to explode. As if sensing something would snap, people held their breath, and then came the unmistakable smudge of movement from the shadows, a figure lingering just outside the edges of the crowd. In that moment, it became clear they were not alone. What did this stranger know? Was there a darker truth yet to be revealed? The tension hung palpably, building toward a conclusion that felt inevitable. Jamal felt the fiery ache inside him constrict, pulling tighter as the piece of their world unraveled. What would the stranger say? Would their arrival tilt the balance, or would it plunge everyone deeper into turmoil? The moment hung pregnant with possibility, every heartbeat echoing a dawning realization that the unfolding story was far from over. A sudden hush fell over the crowd as the figure stepped into the flickering streetlights. A shiver ran through Jamal, something about the stranger's posture felt oddly familiar, a presence that sent a jolt of unease through him. As the figure moved closer, he saw it was a woman, her face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. Her clothes were simple, yet there was an air of confidence that enveloped her, making it hard for anyone to ignore her. "Enough," she commanded the crowd, her voice steady and rich with authority. The murmurs ceased, all eyes now affixed on her. The millionaire squinted, visibly agitated. "Do you know who I am?" He took a step forward, trying to regain the control he suddenly felt slipping away. The woman didn't flinch. "I know exactly who you are. But this isn't about your connections or your wealth." She looked straight at Jamal, her gaze steady, and added, "It's about the life of a child who matters more than anything you can buy." Hope surged anew in Jamal's chest, but beneath that warmth lurked a chilling doubt. Who was she? Was she there to help or complicate things more? "Get out of here," the millionaire hissed, his bravado wavering. "You don't belong in this conversation." The woman stepped closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper that reached the heart of the crowd. "I've seen many men like you." She paused, searching his eyes with an intensity that made the air tense. "Men who think they can hide behind dollar bills and status. But this? This is about a little girl who needs you. And if you ignore this, trust me, this won't end well for you." Jamal found himself leaning forward, hanging on her every word. The rising anger within him sputtered, giving way to a flicker of curiosity mingled with hope. "There's more at stake here than just a few dollars," she continued, glancing around the crowd as if weighing each individual response. "There's humanity. There's a chance to be more than just a name on a ledger. Do you not see how many people have gathered?" Her voice thickened, emotion pouring through. "They believe in justice today, and they will not let you walk away unscathed for ignoring this child's plight." The crowd erupted into murmurs again, ignited with passion. Jamal felt the weight of the moment as faces turned towards the millionaire, anger boiling over once more. "Help her!" Someone shouted, others echoing the sentiment in a swell of voices demanding action. The millionaire's eyes darted from the woman to the crowd. "This is absurd!" he shouted, desperation leaking into his tone. "You cannot threaten me. I have resources. Resources that could make a difference." The woman countered fiercely. "Or resources that will allow you to sit pretty while turning your back on a dying child. The choice is yours." Jamal's heart raced. Could this stranger truly sway the millionaire? Was she going to summon the power that would force him to make a choice? The dichotomy of the moment, fists clenched, breaths held, was electric. Silence reigned, the crowd holding their collective breath, the challenge hanging in the air like a storm cloud. The officer looked back and forth between the three figures, the millionaire, Jamal, the woman, and the enormity of the moment reflected in his furrowed brow, and then it happened. A faint flicker of recognition crossed the millionaire's face, and he stepped back, visibly shaken. "No," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know." "What don't I know?" The woman pressed, stepping closer, her eyes unwavering. Time froze, the tension snapped like a taut wire, and inside Jamal, hope sparked anew, but it was laced with fear. Could the revelation about to emerge change everything? The crowd sensed it too, a ripple of anticipation building as they leaned in. Jamal's breath caught in his throat. What dark truth lay hidden beneath this man's surface? What secrets would come spilling forth, and how might they alter the lives of everyone involved? He could feel the moment teetering on the edge, ready to plunge into the unknown. What would the millionaire reveal? Would it break the tension or shatter their hope entirely? The weight of the questions pressed down heavily, igniting a new uncertainty that threatened to overwhelm them all. The millionaire's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water, caught between the weight of his secrets and the mounting pressure of the crowd. Jamal's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a countdown. He could sense the shift in energy, the realization that something profound was about to unravel. What don't I know? The woman prompted again, her voice cutting through the thick silence. It was a challenge, a dare that hung in the air like a loaded gun. The millionaire's face paled under the streetlights. You don't get to judge me. His words fell like lead, heavy with panic. You think you know what I've done? You think you have the slightest idea of the sacrifices I had to make? Sacrifices? The woman scoffed, her tone dripping with disdain. Do not sit there and try to paint self-preservation as sacrifice. You have the chance to save a life right now. You can change the narrative. Change the narrative? He echoed, the challenge hardening his voice. This isn't a movie, lady. You don't understand how the world works from behind that hat you wear. His words cut deep, leaving a crack in his facade. Jamal could feel the tension in the air shift, a collective energy coursing through the crowd. They were ready for the truth, hungry for whatever twisted narrative the millionaire had kept hidden. Just tell us. Someone shouted, emboldened by the mounting emotions. What's the secret? What's holding you back? The millionaire clenched his fists, a tremble running through him. I can't do anything. He exploded, frustration spilling over. I made a promise. I promised to pay it back one day. What kind of promise? Jamal thought he might burst. Little by little, the words were falling from the millionaire's lips, but they only served to deepen the mystery. I lost everything. A child, my child. And I promised. He paused, the ache in his chest palpable. I swore I would make it right, no matter the cost. The woman's voice softened, as if she sensed the fracture beneath his bravado. And you think that holding back now is making it right? The only way to honor that promise is to help another child who is in need. Jamal took a step forward, feeling a rush of courage. What about my sister? She needs that milk. She is sick. If you can help, you have to. You can't just turn away from this. His voice trembled with a mix of anger and desperation, channeling every ounce of emotion into those words. The crowd erupted in agreement, voices overlapping, a rising tide of passion and urgency. They were no longer spectators, they were a force, united in their demand for change. The millionaire's gaze flickered between the woman and Jamal, now filled with uncertainty. The flickering streetlight reflected off his sweat-drenched brow, showcasing the conflict raging within him. Look around you. The woman urged, her voice rising above the clamor. They are here for justice. Your chance to redeem yourself lies right here, right now. Would he take the step, Jamal wondered. Would he choose to act, despite the ghosts of his past? Tension hung heavy in the air, suffocating and electric. Every person present could feel the shift. The moment hung like a pendulum, ready to swing either way, but just as the millionaire opened his mouth to respond, a crippling sound shattered the night. A gunshot echoed, sharp and piercing, sending a ripple of panic through the crowd. All eyes turned toward the source, shock and horror etched on their faces. What had just happened? Would the answers they sought slip away forever in the chaos? How would each of them react to the danger now playing at their doorstep? The night had taken a darker turn, and uncertainty loomed once more, as the shadows closed in. The crowd erupted into chaos, a wave of shouts and screams bouncing off the brick walls. Jamal's heart raced, thudding against his chest like a drum. He turned instinctively, searching for his sister in the darkness, a wheel of panic tightening around his throat. "Get down!" someone screamed, urgent and hoarse. Bodies jolted, scattering like autumn leaves in a storm. Jamal felt a hand grip his shoulder, yanking him back as people rushed past. The millionaire stood frozen, his earlier resolve now shattered. His eyes were wide, reflecting the flickering light of the street lamp as horror painted his pallid face. "Who shot?" the woman cried, pushing through the crowd to stand next to Jamal. Her fierce demeanor had shifted to alarm, her expressions revealing a depth of concern. I don't know," Jamal stammered, his voice barely a whisper above the cacophony. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, yet his feet felt glued to the asphalt. Then he caught sight of it, a shadow darting between the cars, blending into the night. A chill raced down his spine. Whatever or whoever had fired the shot wasn't finished. As if sensing Jamal's fear, the woman grabbed his arm. "We need to get out of here," she urged, her tone firm. "Now." They moved as a single entity, weaving through the crowd that had turned into a writhing mass of panic. Jamal's mind raced, all he could think about was his sister, alone and vulnerable. Would she be okay? The millionaire tried to call after them, his voice hoarse. "Wait. Please." But the crowd swallowed his words, drowning them in a sea of fear. Jamal turned back, desperation igniting in his chest. "You promised," he shouted. "You have to help. My sister. What about her?" His words hung in the air for a fleeting moment before he turned again, pulling the woman along. They sprinted toward the alley, the only sanctuary he could think of. There'd be less danger among the shadows. In the refuge of the alley, they both pressed against the cool brick, gasping for breath. Jamal's thoughts churned, his pulse echoing his name. The gunshot replayed in his mind, mingling with the fear of what came next. Who was it? Why didn't anyone call the police? He muttered, feeling a sense of betrayal curling in his stomach. We don't have time to think about that. We need to figure out what to do next, the woman said, her voice steady with an undertone of urgency. The determination in her eyes sparked something in Jamal. But what about him? Jamal pointed back toward the street. He's still out there. He could, maybe that shot was for him. The woman's narrowed gaze pierced through the darkness, annoyance mixing with concern. Or maybe it's something darker than we can imagine. We can't let ourselves be caught in this mess. Jamal swallowed hard, the burden of his sister's welfare weighing heavily on him. What if he changes his mind? If he hears about the shot, and he might. But right now, we need to focus on keeping you and your sister safe. Her voice was firm, cutting through his panic like a knife. Before Jamal could respond, another gunshot rang out, this time distant but clear. It sent shivers racing down his spine. They both flinched, eyes wide as they locked in on each other, the shadows danced around them, and an uneasy silence fell in the alley. Was the shooter still lurking nearby? A grim sense of foreboding filled the air, poised on the brink of a new crisis. Listen, the woman's voice was barely a whisper now. We need to find shelter. We have to get to a place where we can plan. Just then, there was a tremor in the ground beneath them, a headlight beam cutting through the darkness. A car pulled to a stop at the mouth of the alley, the engine rumbling ominously. Jamal's breath hitched, his heart leaping into his throat. Who's that? What do we do? The woman's eyes narrowed, scanning the vehicle. We wait. But whatever happens, we stay together. Will their uneasy alliance hold? And as a shadow moved deeper into the alley, who or what would they face next? The car door creaked open, and a figure emerged, silhouetted against the headlights. Jamal felt his heart pound louder, the sound echoing in his ears. The cold night air felt thick with tension as the man stepped into the light, a sharp suit, polished shoes, and a confident stride. He looked composed, as if he didn't believe what had just erupted around them. "Get back!" the woman hissed, pulling Jamal deeper into the shadows of the alley. They pressed against the cool brick, barely daring to breathe. "What if he is the shooter?" Jamal whispered, fear clawing at his throat. "Whatever he is, we can't risk being seen," the woman replied with fierce determination. The man turned his back on the alley, glancing toward the crowd as if searching for something or someone. Jamal's pulse quickened when he realized the man was the millionaire, the very one whose presence had drawn so many people to this chaos. Why was he here now? Was he even safe? As the millionaire's eyes scanned the scene, Jamal caught a glimpse of a gun tucked away in the side of his suit jacket. "Does he have a weapon?" Jamal muttered, backing further into the shadows. "What do we do if he finds us?" "Stay quiet," the woman commanded, slipping her hand into her purse. "I need something to defend us if it comes to that." But it felt like all the air was being sucked out of the alley, and with every second that passed, the sense of danger intensified. The millionaire took a step toward the chaos, and just as he did, a voice echoed from behind him. "Jasper! Get back here!" Jamal's stomach dropped. It was a woman, moving frantically through the crowd. He recognized her, the millionaire's assistant. She had searched the gathering before, worry etched all over her face, and now she seemed frantic, calling out. "Where's the gunman, Jasper? We have to go." "Do you think she knows?" Jamal's eyes darted back to the woman beside him. "What if they're in financial trouble? What if they need to silence him?" Before she could answer, the sound of tires screeching on asphalt filled the air, blending with the symphony of panicked shouts. Another car careened into view, skidding dangerously close to where the millionaire stood. "Get back!" he shouted again, turning sharply. The shadows swallowed Jamal and his companion, the moment thick and electric with dread. "Now what?" Jamal whispered, desperation etching itself into his voice. "Wait for it. We can't let ourselves be seen," the woman replied. But as she spoke, her eyes widened, and her breath caught in her throat. "Look!" Jamal followed her gaze and turned just in time to see the faint outline of another figure, emerging behind the millionaire, a man dressed in all black, hood pulled low, a menacing expression hidden within the darkness. Jamal felt his skin crawl. The realization crashed over him like a wave, this was no random act of violence. The shots were meant for him, he muttered, dread pooling in his stomach. He was right. The figure raised something metallic, glinting in the dim light, a gun. Just as the risky game of momentum shifted, the millionaire turned back, his assistant shouting warnings that brewed a storm of chaos. In an instant, everything exploded into noise. Screams pierced the air, fading into chaos once more. "Go!" the woman screamed, forcing Jamal forward into a sprint as the crowd erupted again. "We can't stay here." As they dashed through the alley, the cacophony behind them faded into a haunting blur: gunshots, shouts, the screech of tires. But Jamal's focus zeroed in on one thing, escaping the storm that swirled just behind them. Panic surged through him. He needed to find his sister. "We have to get to a safe place first," he shouted, adrenaline screaming through his veins. They turned the corner into another street, the cool breeze brushing against their skin, but a part of him remained tethered to the unrelenting fear brewing in the shadows. Who were they truly running from? And would he reach his sister, or would danger catch up to them first? The alley opened into a small street, dark and quiet compared to the chaos they had just escaped. Jamal's breathing was ragged, lungs burning from the sprint, but he dared not stop. He scanned the surroundings, searching for any sign of his sister, but all he found was an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant echoes of sirens and terrified shouts. "Where do we go now?" he gasped, looking at the woman who had pulled him into this madness. She appeared unfazed, her expression hard and focused. "Just keep moving. There's a diner a few blocks up, 24 hours. We can regroup there," she said, dragging him along as they hurried through the shadows, Jamal remembered the neon sign of the diner, flickering like a beacon in an otherwise dark world. That place isn't safe either. We'll be trapped with nowhere to run if they find us. They won't be looking for us there, she replied confidently. They'll be looking for him. Who? Jamal questioned, but doubts lingered in his mind. He didn't know if her certainty was grounded in fact or mere hope. As they turned the final corner, the diner glowed in the distance, a flickering oasis in a desert of fear. But before relief could wash over him, a motorcycle's roar sliced through the air, growing louder, blaring like a warning bell. Jamal's gut twisted. It was a sound that promised danger. Run! The woman shouted, and they broke into a sprint yet again. Each stride felt heavier than the last. They dove behind a dumpster just as the motorcycle screeched to a halt. The rider, clad in leather, dismounted swiftly, scanning the street with predatory precision. Jamal's heart raced, pounding like a hammer in his chest, fear gripping him tightly. What if it's them? Jamal whispered, his voice shaky. What if they're working together? Trust me, they're not. The shooter wants the millionaire, not us. She peered cautiously over the dumpster. But we don't want to take any chances. The motorcycle rider pulled a phone from his pocket, tapping something quickly on the screen. Jamal couldn't make out what was being said, the words lost in the frenzy of his thoughts. He was beginning to feel the weight of helplessness, the anxiety creeping back in like a creeping shadow. Suddenly, the woman's expression shifted. They're coordinating. We've got to move now. They darted away from the dumpster, weaving through the tight alleyways, desperation fueling their feet. Jamal couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching them, lurking in every shadow. They rounded another corner and spotted the diner door, still illuminated and inviting, yet a wave of dread crashed over him. Wait! He yelled, gripping her arm. What if they're already inside? She hesitated, her eyes searching his face. We don't have time. We need to get somewhere safe. Just then, the unmistakable sound of gunfire erupted in the distance, causing them to jerk back instinctively. Jamal's stomach dropped. Was it close? More shouts followed, raising the tension higher. The woman took a deep breath, steeling herself. We have to blend in. Act normal. No one will notice if we look casual. Casual? Jamal was incredulous. People are being hunted. How can I act casual? You have to try. Just keep moving. With hearts pounding nearly out of their chests, they stepped forward into the diner, knowing that every decision they made could seal their fate. The bell above the door jingled softly, seeming to mock their fear. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. As they settled into a booth at the far back, tension wrapped itself around them like a coiled snake. The diner had a few patrons, an elderly couple, a truck driver, a woman nursing coffee at the counter. No one appeared to have noticed them yet, but Jamal's skin prickled with unease. Every minute felt like a lifetime, every shadow a potential threat. As Jamal made eye contact with the waitress, her expression flickered with recognition, but before he could decipher if it was a friendly glance or a warning, a loud crash erupted outside, shattering the temporary calm. The door burst open, and two figures charged in, their eyes scanning the room. Jamal, the woman hissed, her voice laced with panic as she backed away, and then, the world around them blurred into chaos once again. What would they do now, trapped in a sanctuary that might very well become their tomb? Jamal's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage with the urgency of a train barreling down the tracks. The diner felt alive now, the energy shifting like a thunderstorm rolling in. The figures moving through the doorway were shadows of panic, their ragged breaths and frantic expressions carved with determination. Jamal's mind raced back to his sister, alone in their small apartment, lost in the worry that now consumed him completely. Stay calm, the woman urged, her voice laced with a fierce resolve that steadied Jamal's trembling hands. If they come this way, we act natural. He nodded, though sweat trickled down his brow, pooling at his temples. The atmosphere thickened like molasses, every second stretching thin, tight with dread. The two new figures split, one heading toward the counter while the other scanned the room. Jamal's throat constricted, the lump growing heavy as he tried to focus on the waitress who approached, her brow creased with concern. "I know you two didn't just walk into a shootout," she murmured quietly, tension coloring her words. "You better tell me what is going on." Jamal's heart sank. Who could he trust? "Please, it's not safe," he began. "It's fine," the woman interrupted, her voice steady despite the storm brewing around them. "We can explain later. Just do you have a back exit?" The waitress's glance flicked to the door, then back at them. "Yeah, but you need to be quick. It's just a kitchen door. Go." "Thank you." Jamal gasped out, pushing himself up from the booth. The woman was already moving, pulling him gently but firmly toward the back. They slipped into the kitchen, the smells of grease and burnt coffee wrapping around them like a familiar hug. The sound of the city outside grew muted in this cocoon of chaos. "Keep going," the woman urged, leading him through the tight, hot space. The clang of pots and pans thudded against his ears, blending with muffled voices from outside. "Jamal, focus. We get out, and then we figure out how to find your sister." As they neared the door, booming voices began to seep into the kitchen, deeper and angrier than the chaos outside. "Where is he? He was just in here." "Can't let them find us here," Jamal whispered, panic bubbling in his chest. The woman turned back, eyes aflame with determination. "We'll get through this. Together." She pushed the door open, and they emerged into the alley, the world outside eerily quiet now. The sounds of anger and gunfire had faded into the distance, replaced by the muffled noise echoing off the brick walls. They darted into the night, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they weaved through alleyways, desperation guiding their steps. Yet, Jamal's thoughts remained firmly tethered to his sister. What if she is still waiting? He murmured, fear knotting his stomach. "Then we can't waste time," the woman replied, her voice fierce. "You know where to go?" "Yes," Jamal exclaimed, rallying his spirit. Just a little further, but just as he turned the corner, the muffled roar of a motorcycle echoed again, slicing through the air. A chill snaked down his spine. The hunter was back. "Run!" the woman instructed, gripping his hand. They bolted ahead, hearts hammering, as the motorcycle's engine roared closer, the sound a relentless predator pursuing them through the dark. "Where now?" Jamal gasped, feeling the walls close in, desperation flaring once more. The woman ducked into a narrow side street, pulling Jamal with her, their breaths mixing with the crisp night air. "Trust me," she said, her voice now even steadier, but Jamal could hear the tension trembling just beneath the surface. They blasted down the street, taking every shortcut, every twist and turn, until they reached an abandoned doorway. The door creaked open reluctantly, but they slipped inside, collapsing against the wall to catch their breath. What was happening? Why were they being hunted? But as Jamal looked at this woman beside him, the desire to protect his sister surged stronger than fear. "Do you think he'll give a damn about this?" Jamal asked, his voice raw. "Maybe," she replied, unexpectedly. Gentle. "But that's not our equation anymore. We need to focus on you and your sister. We can find him later." Just then, Jamal's phone vibrated in his pocket, sending a wave of panic through him. "What if it's my sister?" he said, voice hushed as he fumbled with the device. "Then you answer it," she urged, eyes dancing with worry and anxiety. He did, breath hitching as he pressed the phone to his ear, heart racing with uncertainty. "Hello? Jamal?" A voice panted on the other end, shaky and strained. It was his neighbor. "Jamal. You need to come home. The police are here, and it's not safe. You have to hurry." The world tilted beneath him, shock coiling around his heart. "Where's my sister? Is she okay?" "She is fine, but you need to come fast." This is serious. The voice trembled, caught in a web of concern and urgency. It's happening, the woman whispered fiercely. You have to move. Now. Jamal nodded, pushing back against the panic surging through him. I'm coming. He shouted into the phone, determination replacing fear. They bolted from the safe haven of their hideout, racing through the darkened streets, breathless and desperate. The shadows danced along their path as dread twisted deep in his gut. The police were there. Was help finally coming? Or was it a trap waiting to ensnare them both? This has to work, he rasped, fighting back tears. Please, it has to work. They raced toward home, their only sanctuary from the chaos spiraling around them. But even in that fleeting moment of hope, Jamal could feel a storm brewing like the tension that had hung in the air earlier. Would they be able to find safety, or would danger slip through their fingers once more? With that single thought, each step felt heavier, every shadow felt deeper. Someone was still watching. And everything was about to change. Now, as they reached the familiar streets, the gravity of fate loomed larger and darker. Dear God, let them make it out alive. As they sprinted, Jamal whirled to the woman beside him. No matter what happens, thank you. Her expression softened, a flicker of pride breaking through the fear. We're not done yet. We fight together. And with that promise, they plunged forward into the unknown, determined to reach his sister and face whatever shadows awaited them. But darkness was relentless, creeping closer. Jamal refused to let fear claim him. They were stronger together, they were alive, and that had to mean something. Let us go. And they ran, united against every storm that threatened their path. The night held its breath, but their hearts surged with fierce resilience.